Hello, good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, depending on where you are. Welcome back to another live session of Pass the Baton. And we're here again with Enbart Andreasen, Conductor, of course. With whom we had quite a few chats in the past. So welcome back. And today we're the chat from today is actually the session from today is actually a the result of a more than one question or inquiry in terms of tempo changes, sudden tempo changes, meter changes, and this kind of issues. So Envart has suggested a piece by Messiaen today. So why don't you introduce it a little bit for us and tell us? I would like to also to know which kind of special relationship you have with this piece.
Well, hello everyone. Nice to meet you again, of course, and nice to meet you too, Gianmaria. It's very nice to accept this chat. I proposed Messiaen Chronochromie, which has been written between 1959 1960. The piece has been thought towards the idea of the piece. Imagine you are in a forest
Mhm.
and birds are singing, birds are fighting, birds are singing their love songs. And he used really bird songs. It's really. I can just tell you something. When I studied this piece, which I had to conduct in China on 2000 or 1999. I don't remember exactly the period. I was sitting in my garden and studying and singing each line of um, bird song in the
Yeah.
epode, which is the seventh part, only for string orchestra. It happened something very strange. I said, so I feel that I don't hear only in my head the melody of the bird, but something happened strangely. When I looked up to the tree, I saw the merle noir who were singing, and the same thing, with same rhythm with same pitch was singing. I was shocked, really shocked. And that I understood that this piece cannot be studied as another piece, 20th century music or 19th century or anything else. It has to be studied in a different mind because it is really, really, really related with the nature. Huh? This is for the small
Thank you.
history. So in this piece, there is 7 parts.
Right.
What I propose, we cannot see all the piece, of course. I just propose to see introduction.
Yeah, we can look at few examples. Yes, and a few examples that you send me over. You sent over to me, and then we can go from there. Yes. Okay. So I actually have on screen the first one, which is a 316, and then the bien modéré.
It is a page 11. Yeah. So the tempo of the beginning is très modéré, very moderate, half quaver, 16 to 144. This is the tempo
Yep.
indicated. Well, when you see only très modéré without metronome indication, you can imagine yourself that modéré is moderato, moderato, very moderato, molto moderato, can be something like this.
Yeah,
For
give or take.
example, for
It's
example, it's very personal.
yeah,
But when Messiaen indicate exactly um, metronomical speed, 144, and semiquaver value is semiquaver, you must do it as it he wanted. Cannot change it. You cannot say,
yeah. It's very
"Oh, I don't
precise
want this. I
indication.
want this." Okay,
Yeah,
so um, the bar 316 of this page is in the 144. The value is 16, and then and then we have bien modéré, well moderate. Huh? Again, semiquaver 160. So there is a difference between 144 and 160.
of course.
How much is it? Is it too much or is it nearly not very far? Um,
Now, I have a question actually. How do you go from one to the other? If you okay, let's put it this way. The first time that you studied this, then you notice that there was a difference in the metronome marking, and you have to go from one metronome marking to the other metronome marking. Uh, how do you approach this from a studying point of view? Simply put, if
okay.
someone who's watching this and who's looking for, let's say, a suggestion on how to go about it, how would they go about it?
Of course, first thing to do is to analyze the piece to see what is going inside. You can also already see by yourself, invent different analyze systems, different elements of music. You can analyze rhythms, rest. You can analyze everything. So it will help you to understand why there is a tempo changes.
Yeah, no, the why
It's very
is part of the construct of the compositional construct. The why
mhm.
there's a tempo changes, and the why maybe there's a tempo relationship, or why we get here and then we move there. That's part of the compositional structure, right? And it's the map of the composer. That's perfectly fine. But from a conductor point of view, once you've done this work, from a purely
Well,
technical point of view, how do
yeah.
you? Yeah,
Well, if you want to understand this piece, I'm sorry, I did it. I did it. I worked on this piece during nearly 6 to 8 months because because there is not only to see the piece as a conductor who will do this, but you must see the piece as the composer because you must understand what is going. Why? Because look, page 11, 316, and then bien modéré. Huh? The bar is uh, there is 3 rests, and the tempo is changing. Then, if you don't understand how the first part is constructed, you cannot understand why this bar is empty of sound, and then the tempo is changing. If you cannot understand the reason, you will absolutely do what he doesn't want. You change the tempo because it is comfortable on the bar of without sound, and you beat it on 160, and then you take the tempo, but he doesn't want it. He
yeah,
wanted
of course.
until
That's
the
not
end.
what's marked. The
Yeah.
the marking is not on the 316 bar, on the empty 316 bar.
Yes.
It's on the bien modere. That's where the tempo changes is. That's where the marking
but
is.
but
But if you understand, I mean, let's start from the um, uh, let's start from the idea that you understand the piece. You've done the analysis of it. Now you're stuck with the practicality of it, because even if
mhm.
you understand, then you still have to do it, right? As a conductor,
Mhm.
you still have to show it. I
Of
mean,
course.
otherwise, yeah, it's
Of course. Of course.
Now, how do you go about it? Is there like a practical exercise that you do or that you have in mind, or something technical that you apply to a situation like this?
Um, the thing was very interesting to study. What is it? As I told you, to pass from 144 to 160 means that there is a not very big fast. Yeah,
Hmm.
uh, you must feel it here, and if you feel it here, your hand will go. So to practice it, I did something very very hard. Um, from the beginning, from the beginning of the piece, I took it to tempo 144 and sing in my head, hear in my head all accords. I cannot tell you how it is awfully difficult, because there is not melodical line.
Of course,
There is
yes.
not melodical line, not as a pod. A pod is different. So there's are accords like this. So feel the accords and read the score and come to bien modéré and make it faster. So it is inside the clock inside.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
did it.
Yeah.
And
That's
then and then just a minute. And
yeah.
then I have had a look on the metronome. If I am on 160, yeah, this is very difficult to do. And then the second uh, etap, it was to do it with the hand, because the hand has to practice as you sit on the bicycle, huh? You don't think what you are doing. So the hand has to do it normally, automatically, mechanically. uh, this is also very difficult, because you spend hours and hours and days to repeat it. There is no melody. You cannot have um, a bass. The accords are the same. Yes, they are the same. But what is the sound of the accord? It's really difficult. But when um, you do these three things, yeah, with analyze and so together, then you can build the piece, because uh, in the building of the piece there is sudden tempo changes. It's very important. uh, and the music is going head, because the tempos which was chosen by Messiaen um, show us then he wanted something. It's going like this. There is not this breath. There is no breath. The breath is empty. This sound empty bars. There's many empty bars like that. So these three things has to be work together. That's what I did.
I yeah. I think there are two things here that I would like to add to this, at least from my side. For instance, one trick when you need to memorize a tempo, as in tempo indication, right? Then you can use a reference of something that you already have. That, for instance, if you have to have, I don't know, let's say 108 of the metronome, pa 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 pim, pa 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 pim. That's more or less 108. Use something as reference, that is already there to help you out fix in your head that type of that metronome marking. And you can choose whatever you want to. I mean, I just this is Beethoven Fifth is just a lame example, but of what you can use. But you can use pretty much whatever you want to. Once you figure out that, then that's an internal reference that you can use, a trick that you can use yourself to hang on to a specific tempo. But the other thing is that even in this case, where you have an empty bar, right? of the 316, and then you moved from a très modéré to a bien modéré, right? The orchestra needs an upbeat in tempo. Yes, it does. Otherwise, they're not going to be together.
I know, but not here. You cannot. You have
Yes.
no time.
No, no,
There
no.
is no time.
If there's no time, they can't be
Sorry.
together. I mean, if without an upbeat, the orchestra is not going to be together. If the conductor doesn't give the upbeat, and here we have pizzicato strings divided in 4 and 3 and 3 and 4 and so forth, in 2, sorry. If the conductor doesn't give the upbeat, the concertmeister will by doing this. It's that's a given. That's a given. Without an upbeat in tempo, somebody will give the upbeat in tempo. If the conductor fails to do that, the concertmeister will. So when you have to find a way to do this, whether it's either by slowing down, which to me is actually a little bit confusing, the gesture, or stopping the gesture on the last beat in order to give an upbeat in the new tempo, then you gotta find a way to do that. How do you approach that?
Okay, so suppose this is 1, 2, 3. This is 144, huh? Well, suppose on 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You see, the last gesture, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So you can make it shorter, but just the last moment.
Yeah,
And
but
of course,
I would actually personally, I prefer I prefer something like, let's see if I'm on camera, but keeping your example. No, yeah, 1, 2, 3. You have it this tempo, right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. If you wait on the last beat, you can give the upbeat in tempo without catching the orchestra by surprise. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
There is another thing, which is conducting technique. The gesture here, I practice it. So I saw it with the orchestra. When the gesture is big like this, you lost the time.
Of course.
But if the gesture is very small, you can use this. You can change the tempo. I practiced it with the orchestra. I saw how was it, and many times during the rehearsal, I even didn't prepare, give a breath, a preparation, nothing. It's a raw, it's going, because this is which is very flexible and very fast. Without the arm, all the arm is easier to make tempo sudden changes.
Oh, in that respect, you know that when you talk about using the wrist, you're preaching to the choir.
What?
You're preaching to the choir with me when you talk about using the wrist, because that's
yeah. No, I think we don't speak only between us, but we speak
no,
with
yes, of
everybody,
course.
huh?
No, for me is yes, it's a really important point. But and yes, I totally agree that especially, and the faster you go in tempo, and the faster the changes that you need to make are, the less space you need to use, which means that it reduces from here to here to here to here, and then that does all the job, actually, all the work, and
because there is something.
It does work.
Yeah, there is something very important. The gesture, small gesture, you don't lose the time in the space. The time in the space. The gesture is large or large like this or large like this. You have another correspondence between time and space. Here, the time is very short, very fast, very short, very fast. The space is very narrow. So the gesture has to be small,
Yeah,
even
I
if
agree.
the orchestra is playing.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Of course,
Yes.
because the importance of the dynamic is not in the big gesture, but in the energy
Yeah.
you put in the gesture.
Yeah,
So
it's
it
the
can be
intensity of the
small,
gesture. Yes.
of course.
You can have a fortissimo with 3 or 4 Fs just from here without the need to do anything big. And
Um,
especially when you have this kind of music, very rhythmic, and with pizzicato on top of that, fortissimo, and whatever you. But even if it wasn't just the strings, and if you had the entire orchestra, then you would still at a certain speed and with a certain type of music, very rhythmical. This is fundamental, and it's much more effective than doing this.
and secondly, uh, um, this kind of music where the rhythm is very complicated, it's very hard. Sometimes they can be lost. Huh?
Yeah,
If the gesture is big, they are lost because uh, when the gesture is big, you do this. Here you cannot. It must be like this.
yeah, very
Very,
precise.
very, how do you say,
Uh,
direct? Huh?
yeah, precise. Yes,
Because
yes.
they must play in a pot. It's awfully hard for the string orchestra. Uh, they are looking your beat 1, 2, 3, and they are playing inside. Uh, if I can show the part of a pot, um, if you can see, I didn't send the photo. Look here. You see, this is the
Yeah, very,
epod.
very, very small. It's very small. Yes, and
Okay.
we can see something
Uh,
that is very small. Yes.
there is so much rhythms in a beat that the orchestra is very clear beating, and without anything like this, because they cannot play, they will be lost.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
because was very interesting, the conductor is in front of the orchestra to help them to play, not to make everything complicated. Yeah?
No.
And here, this piece is a very good example. Very good.
Shall we move, for instance, to the second example?
Yeah.
I have the 216,
You
and
have you
two
have
bars of
page
216 for
12.
about.
You have page 12.
I think it's that one. I don't know.
The next page.
Is it the 2 bars of 216 followed by the 3/8?
Yes.
Yes, that's the one. Yes.
Yes. So the 2 bars of 216 is in the tempo of bien modéré, half quaver 160. And now un peu vif, a little fast, the number 3. Quaver 176. So it means that 160, 176, yeah,
Yeah.
faster than 160, but the value is quaver. For the conductor, it is not changing anything because you have your tempo 160, 176. You must know how fast is very far or not far or near. You must know it. It's very important. And my teacher, Pierre Devaux, um, uh, always told us that if you want to know how different are tempos between, for example, 92 and 144, 92 and 144 in the metronome, you
Mhm.
must know how many different degrees there is between both. So inside your metronome, and he always said, eat your metronome, eat. That's what I did, and it helped me to conduct this piece. Otherwise, I couldn't. That's what I did when I was student, and then it was work. So this is our example of my life. the same time. So when you know 116, 176, how far they are from each other and how much fast it is, inside your metronome push you to do that. You don't need anything, but it has to work, to be practice. It's very difficult to do.
Well, speaking of which, actually, how do you practice this? I mean, not you personally. Oh, yeah, you personally too as well. But what I meant is,
Well,
how
I
does
remember,
one practice this if you
yeah.
if you had to explain it to somebody who's approaching this for the first time, right? And it's saying, okay, so it's all good and nice, but how do I actually practice this?
Just a minute. I will bring a. Here is it. I don't know if you can see something. Can you see?
For yeah, a little more to this, not the other side. Yes, thank you. 2 4 4 4. I can
You
barely read
see?
actually. Not really.
Well,
Four
it
four two
means,
four and then something else. But
yeah, this question is very important. Your question is very important, and I decided to study it during that 15 days of master class, my master class. This because this is very important to know how uh, a tempo changes. Just exercises without a score. Just exercises,
mhm,
as you say, to make a reservoir. It's very interesting word. Very
yeah,
interesting word because there is a reservoir to knowledge of tempo. There is a repertoire of gesture, and there is very important thing is to choose the exact position of conducting, because this is not a melodical piece, so you can do things like that, so you can conduct higher, and this is, as we told, must be lower to have small gestures and to put it everything in place. If there is, um, for example, uh, this is later, I think. There is one accord piano and one and a strings, and the next accord in the same bar of 216, forte with winds. So your hand is here, and pa, you show the forte to so independence to do this and come back because it must be very fast. You don't have time. This need to be practiced. And I want, and we practice it during a master class in Holland, in Hilversum, with Michel Tapachnik during 1 month.
mhm.
You must not calculate how much, how is it, the quaver, how is it, the mathematical calculation and so on. Everything is together, and you must practice it. And for this piece, I practiced it, I told you, during 8 months. 8 months. And when I came in front of the orchestra, they never hear this music, they never played, which is the case with many, many orchestras in the world, big or small, anyway. It must be so clear gestures and knowledge and tempo changes that they will not ask any question. They just look their score and do this with eyes. So your hands must be always on the same place because it is a reference points. You cannot count on anybody, even first violin, because he has no time. He's playing like this. And counting rhythms, small rhythms, very, very complicated, in a fast tempo is very difficult for musicians. So I put all these philosophical questions, professional knowledge, and all we said, put together. It took me 8 months to study only this score, 8-10 hours per day, because not only you should know notes, because most of the time they are clusters, but you must,
Cluster.
which is the low note of cluster, or is there half notes until where it is going, and this is the color, and with the color you know is if there is a wrong note or not. This is also another work. Then for example, what was your question?
Well, the question is,
I didn't
do you have
answer
an
your
exercise?
question.
What's the practical approach? I mean, do you have an exercise to suggest to somebody who's
Yeah,
looking
of
at
course.
something similar? I mean, not necessarily this piece, but there's a lot of pieces that have similar problems, right?
Well,
So
I can
tempo.
suggest something like that. I can suggest something like that. An exercise to all of who hearing us. Write a bar, 3/8, crochet pointed. How do you say? I don't know.
What do you say? Sorry.
Crochet with a point. How do you say?
Oh, the dotted eighth note.
Okay, 72.
Yeah.
Pa 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 pa. Yeah, pa pa pa. It's forte. Write down. I give you an exercise, and then 3 crochet, piano, 2 metronomical speed, 1 crochet, 260. Make exercise like this for you. For example, 4/4, a crochet 42, and then you go to quiver, 8 quavers, 4/84.
And
And
how
now
can
you
I
count.
check? Yeah, and how can I check if what I'm doing is correct? Or, well, let's say, if then, because the perception is always different. If you're by yourself in the room is one thing. If you're in
There is
front of the
something
orchestra,
which name is metronome.
yes, indeed.
Okay, so you put your metronome and you beat with the metronome 1 bar, 2 bar, 272 or 216, and then you stop your metronome, and now you say, now I'm going to beat crochet 42, and you try to understand how from 260 you will go to 42, and you verify with metronome. You do it 10 times, 20 times, then after then you will not need the metronome. And if many days later you want to bring back the same exercise without metronome, and then you verify with metronome, you will see that the tempo is exactly as the metronome. This is exercise. You took the time to study, to practice. If you don't to take the time, you will not realize something,
Well, you will not reach any results, actually.
Yeah.
That's very
So
simple.
the
I mean,
thing
there are
is,
some things that, and actually, this is something that, yeah, I'd really like to stress. These are things that need time. No, sorry. Let me rephrase this. These are things that demand time.
of course,
These are, aside from the scores, the technical part of it. Aside from any score, just the technical part of it demands time, and there are no shortcuts. And we can have and invent, and you can invent for yourself all sorts of exercises that you want, and then you can write it down. You can write 216, 3/8, 5/8, 16, 17, whatever you want to whatever tempo changes. But unless you really put in the time and the effort, there's no way to get to the results that you want. That's just the nature of it. That's just how it is. Must practice, and practice quite a bit, actually,
I will
especially
not.
in
I will
these.
not contradict you.
Yes, I know.
You know why? Because um, I told it once when I in some few days ago. A very old Armenian musician remind me. He said, "Oh, do you remember your teacher, first teacher?" Of course, I remember. One bar of 4/4. 15 years old, Navat, standing standing during 3 hours. 3 hours. Can you imagine something like this now? 15 years old.
They would
No,
probably
it's
sue you
impossible.
for, for
So, so the thing was how to uh, imagine imagine sizes for practicing the uh, the good position and good gesture. Because what was the meaning of the word good? Good means something so clear that any musician can play without asking any question.
precisely. Yes, precisely.
So the thing was like this. The position was low here, here, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Do you see? Three,
Yes,
four,
yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. This was an exercise, and I invented myself exercises like that with 4, 4, 2, 4, 3, 4, 8, 6, 8. It is difficult with 6, 8 time because you can lose the
Yeah, yeah,
the,
yeah.
the beat and so on. And independence. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can
I
invent.
mean that you can find all sorts of combinations. Actually, I would also always recommend also to try different the same thing in different positions in different um, parts of the conductor space, in different dynamics, and in different articulation.
Tempos.
Of course, tempos. Yes, of course.
You can do the same with tempos.
All sort of combination possible that you can possibly imagine. It's fine. I mean, there is, for me, there is really not just one exercise or one set of exercises, because all of these, then you will find yourself um, into the same type of situations, but slightly different depending on the piece, because of course every piece is different, right? And then you may have a change of meter between 216 and 38. In one piece is at 80, in another piece is 120, in one piece is in piano, in one piece is in fortissimo. There are one piece is legato, one piece is staccato. So there's all different types of combinations, including the orchestration and including who's playing what, that call for having the same exercise that, for instance, you jot down, the one that you said, write down this, and you can do that, in one position, in middle position, in high position, with two hands, with one hand, and then changing, using the left hand for something else, vice versa, using the left hand and use the right hand for something else.
Exact. Of
Practice
course.
independence of it's all good. The important thing for
Also
me.
you can make exercises. For example, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4 staccato. You
Yeah.
can make 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes,
You can
yes, of course,
invent anything you
of
want.
course. Invent whatever you
Anything
want.
you want. But
The
but
Yeah,
Gianmaria, excuse me.
yeah.
But the important thing is, um, um, for me, for me, uh, since the age of 9, when I begin studying and uh, practicing conducting, the most important thing is to uh, love conducting patiently. At that time, you can find exercise for yourself, because you must go on, go on, go on each second. Until today, I do it.
Well,
until today,
you
because
know that
it depends.
List, when he was, after his parents' years, so he was List already. He
Of course, of course.
Well, he trained himself to study about for 8 to 10 hours a day. At some point, he locked himself up in his house, and forced himself to study, and by studying I mean practicing for 8 to 10 hours a day, because he wasn't happy with some of the transcendental things that he was doing, or he had set out to do on the piano, right? So he, even Liszt, being Liszt already, trained himself. Uh, that comes with the job, but if you're not passionate about it, you're not going to do it. There is no, you're either going to look for shortcuts, or you're going to abandon and change profession. Between the two, I actually prefer the second. If that's not your route, then go do something else that you're passionate about. Don't look for shortcuts, because that's only uh, detrimental to everybody. Nevertheless, let's aside from this, yes, I agree. You have to practice. You have to, and yes, it's true that with years and with experience, it's become easier, of course, because you have years of training. But it only becomes easier if you keep training. Musicians, there is one difference, I think, often between conductors and instrumentalists. More often than not, conductors do not have technical exercises as much as instrumentalists do. If you think about the pianist, the amount of technical books, exercises, just take the Hanon for scales. If you think about violin, all the books of Sevcik and all the scales of Flesch and all the technical books that you don't have those for conductors, because it's more often than not deemed as important. And that is one of the biggest mistakes that one can do, because then you get in front of the orchestra, you don't know why some things are happening not the way you expected, or happening in a different way, or you're caught by surprise, and then you're not really sure what to do. And 90% of the cases, what does that have as a consequence? That the conductor blames the musicians, and then the orchestra hates the conductor. It's
Can I add something?
Yeah, of course.
When the conductor or conducting a student practicing, inventing exercises, when I was student, I would made something incredible. You know what was it? Exercises, and during exercises, I exercise also rehearsal with the orchestra. You know
How?
what? You know how? So I imagine that the imagination. I imagine that my gestures are not very clear, and they don't understand me, and don't play on the right place. So in my room, I began to discuss with musicians, and this discussion helped me to understand how to make the gesture clear. It's something crazy. It's
Yeah,
really
well, it's not
crazy.
that crazy, actually. I mean, I had a different experience, in the sense that I had something that I adopt now myself, actually, which when I was at Bard as a student, uh, and that was the first time that I had that. The orchestra was on top of the teacher, on top of Harold Faberman. The orchestra was giving feedback. So you study, you think that something is okay, you go in front of the orchestra, they don't understand, and then they tell you why they don't understand. So you get feedback directly from the musicians, who tell you, look, whatever it is that you're trying to do there, I didn't get it. So then you're forced to rethink about what you did and fix it. And then the next time you come and you fix it, and you say, okay, did you understand? Yes. No. let's fix it again. Let's try a different way, and then you have the teacher suggesting. But the feedback of the players is really something invaluable, actually. I think at least it was for me, and I think from some of my colleagues
The
as well.
thing is that when musician is making a mistake, yeah, instead of F sharp is playing F, for him is a mistake.
Yeah,
Inattention or score is not good. Everything can happen.
happens. Yes.
He remember what he did,
Yeah.
but the conductor has to remember his gestures. Which gesture I did, with why it doesn't work. It's very important to
Yeah.
know what I did. It is not working. How I will change in a thousand
Different
fraction of
ways, or
time.
yes, or in a fraction of
It's very
time.
important. That's why I studied rehearsing in my room with myself, me and the musician. It's very difficult, huh? I was a student, so it's really crazy.
Yeah.
And
Well, this
I
is another
understood.
thing that you can add to the exercises. Change the exercise. You do the exercise in one way, okay, then make believe that the orchestra doesn't understand what you're doing.
Uh-huh. That was
Find a
it.
way to change it in a different way. And then film yourself, and you put
For
yourself on the
example,
other side, and you look at yourself, and then you see, okay, well, if you look at yourself as if you were an instrumentalist, then the perspective changes, and then you have a chance to improve what
of
you're doing.
course, of course. When I teach, most of the time, I have a mirror, and the student is in front of the mirror. If there is a piano or nothing, it's just his music in his head. You look yourself, your gestures in the mirror, as the musician has a look to you,
Yeah,
on you. And you must, after that, explain if your gesture is clear, enough clear for the musician. You, you must learn to criticize yourself, have a
absolutely.
critic vision of yourself, and try to make it better. It's just a
Absolutely.
pianist is making exercises. It's the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, we've talked for, believe it or not, almost an hour
Nearly
already.
1 hour.
But I think that we actually explained, aside from the explanation of Messiaen, actually, we've given quite a few exercises and tips on practicing, which is really important for whoever is watching and for us, really, specifically. So, do you want to add anything else?
Well, no, because if everybody has the score, I can advise you to sit on, on the chair or behind the table and analyze. For example, on the page of 21, there is très modéré 144. Page 21.
Let me see if I can catch that
Number
one.
10. You will see number 10. Did you find?
No, not really. I have 13, 14.
Then next 21. The next one is 21.
Okay. Is it
316 to 16.
316, 216? Wait a second. 316, 216, un peu vif,
Accords. Accords.
176. With the 30-second notes? No. Then
No, accords.
I don't think I have that one. No, I don't have that one, I think.
Okay, no problem. 144, très modéré. The beginning of the piece is the same. Très modéré, 144. Why? Because he took accords, the accord sections, and accord sections are semiquaver 144. It's also something to remember. But when you analyze, you can understand why accords are on 144 and other things which can be named melodic are 160. So this is also can remind you where the tempo is changing, how it is changing, why there is no slow down to go to the tempo changes.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I name it sudden tempo changes, which is totally different of, for example, Tchaikovsky Fifth Symphony, last movement, Schumann
Yeah, yeah,
Fourth Symphony. Is not the
yeah.
same. It's totally different. It's cha-cha. You have no time to think anything. So you must practice this tempo changes. It must be here. Your metronome inside will push your hand to go faster, or push your hand to go slower without this. There's no time.
No, it's a different type of
Of
approach.
course.
Certainly.
It
Yeah,
means that the conception of composition is different.
of course.
So
Yes.
if you accept that conception, if you understand that conception, if you analyze that conception, it can become a part of you. So you can realize the piece as the composer wanted. You don't transform it something because you cannot, you can. This is
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
the most important thing, which has to be practiced as we said.
All right. Well, thank you very much again.
You're welcome.
And well, we'll
So
see
can I say
you.
something?
Yeah,
I
of
want to
course.
say something. This is an occasion for me to
Yeah.
remind everybody that the masterclass of this summer that I will lead, we will speak, we will practice, concretely practice on other scores as Ligeti, as Chelsea, I don't remember. There is Schoenberg, there is Weber, there is 15 or 16 scores. All we speak since this is the fourth time we're discussing. All this will be practiced, concretely practiced. I will give you exercises, you will write exercises, you will do exercises, you will discuss about it, you will discuss with musicians. It's very interactive and very, very, very active, because I think contemporary music needs to be understood.
Okay. Well, good luck with the masterclass. Thank you
Thank you
again,
very much.
and
Thank
we'll see
you.
you next time. Then. Yeah. Ciao.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Ciao.